Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is your host, Tom Pysz. We're celebrating our 18th year on the air here on WQLN. We are also on NPR One and about a dozen other podcast venues. So we're trying to get special guests up online and up and around the country, if not the world. And today, we're honored to have Brian Slawin. And Brian is a very important part of the Ben Franklin Technology Partners for Central and Northern PA. Your official title is Director, and I think you have duties as assigned behind that as well.
That's right, Tom. It's great to reconnect after everything we've all been through. It's always a pleasure to be with you and talk about the things going on at the Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and more broadly within our regional footprint and the Commonwealth in general.
Well, you folks have been around for, I believe, over 30 years. You provide
40 years next year.
Okay.
We've got a big birthday coming up.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to shortchange you a whole decade. I apologize. That's all the more work that you've brought to the community. Let's do something basic here, just as a primer for the folks that are tuned into the program. What is the Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and how does it work?
Absolutely. So back in the day, when Governor Dick Thornburgh was the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he and a bunch of other really smart people recognized that the future of the economy of Pennsylvania was going to look a little bit differently, frankly, a lot differently than it did at the time. So they created an opportunity for startup businesses, small businesses, and other entrepreneurs to receive both capital investment as well as networking, mentorship, support across the entire Commonwealth. And to date, that program has been wildly successful by any measure. Created more than a $26 billion economic impact, has invested in thousands and thousands of companies, created tens of thousands of jobs, and has had an economic impact of not only those jobs, but a 4-to-1 economic return for every dollar invested in the program. It really is a national model. The Ben Franklin Technology Partners was the first in the United States model like this, and now every state has one. And we're proud of our successes and excited about the future.
You run autonomously, or do you all work under a national organization?
So the Ben Franklin Technology Partners is a Pennsylvania Commonwealth-focused entity. We invest in and support those companies that have a significant business presence within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And there are 4 Ben Franklin centers. The center that is better known as Innovation Works in Pittsburgh. There's a Ben Franklin that covers the counties around Philadelphia, known as SEP for Southeast Pennsylvania. There's one up in the Bethlehem region, again, covers the counties in northeastern Pennsylvania, called NEP. And then Central and Northern Pennsylvania, which is the Ben Franklin Center I work for, extends from Erie through Mercer and Clarion down to State College, over to Harrisburg, Lancaster and York, and then over to Altoona and Johnstown. So 32 of the 67 counties is where we cover.
Yeah, you do a lot of traveling, I take it.
Yeah, but have you ever driven around Pennsylvania? I know you have.
I have.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
All 4 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's a great state to live in. I guess that goes back to 83. Am I close?
Yeah, 82, right?
82. Okay. I'm not doing well on the length nor the year as of today. But with the 4 regions, it goes without saying, I'm imagining that you folks meet occasionally?
We do. Once a quarter. Luckily, because of Zoom, we all get together and our CEOs, each of the 4 CEOs, lead a discussion amongst the various folks that work in various offices. It's always topic-based. So I could be talking with colleagues in all 4 of the various regions on any particular topic related to startup support, business growth, economics, support tools, networking. I mean, we talk about so many things together. And then every week we have either a regional staff meeting or an all hands meeting. So we're in constant contact with each other. Obviously, we email and talk a lot about companies and opportunities. One of the things that we do best is get our companies talking to each other. Mm-hmm. So as we've invested across the entire portfolio, sometimes a company in Lancaster is a good match for a company in Erie. And so we're really good at making those connections and helping those companies grow together.
What type of companies do you invest in? Are these mom and pop ready to grow into something very, very large? Give us a snapshot of the type of person or group of people that would come to you.
Sure. So our number one metric is that we invest in innovation. Mm-hmm. And so innovation can take all kinds of shapes and sizes. But what it typically looks like is a company that is developing a new product mm-hmm. or a new process, or they're looking to go into a new market. And specifically, they're looking to grow, because our number one most important metric is jobs creation and an economic impact for the community the company operates within. So sometimes it's a single founder who has an interesting idea and comes out of one of our programs, like the Big Idea Contest, mm-hmm. where we provide $50,000, up to $50,000, just for a big idea. Or they can go into our Techcelerator program, where we have 8 or so companies every quarter that will go to a Business 101. How do you take an idea and turn it into a company? Because we're all about helping grow companies. So it could be a technology company, and technology has a very broad definition. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think of it as, things that go on servers or things that run on the internet. And certainly, yes, we definitely invest in those kinds of companies. But there's also other kinds of companies that are technology companies, and maybe you wouldn't think of it that way. For instance, we're working right now with a company that has changed the way you golf putting, right? So mm-hmm. you're putting. Mm-hmm. There's a whole science behind being a better golf player, mm-hmm. golfer. Mm-hmm. We're working with a company that's doing that. We're working with a company, and have been for a while, that is providing a service, a communications tool for pregnant women and their families. Or perhaps you're in the hospital and you don't have any good way of communicating out. So we invest in a lot of different kinds of companies in the technology realm. And then the other kinds of companies we focus on are small manufacturers. So small manufacturers there's a company called Blind Tiger, which is a small beverage manufacturer, mm-hmm. right? Everyone thinks of bending metal and other kinds of things like that as manufacturing. And it certainly is. And we've invested in a bunch of those kinds of manufacturing companies. But we're also starting to open our aperture a little bit for other kinds of what else can manufacturing be. So there's all kinds of things going on. We're very involved with companies that are working on sustainability. For instance, a company out of Edinburgh called the Fish Gods. They've created a product that helps clean up the earth. So really the easiest way to define what Ben Franklin does mm-hmm. is to contact me or contact us. We'll get the contact information here in just a little bit.
Sure.
And let's have the discussion. So you may or may not be a company that can be invested in by Ben Franklin, but taking the no wrong door approach, if you have an idea or you're looking at, I'd like to do something now entrepreneurial, if you call me, you get a hold of me, we'll have that discussion. If we can help you, on we go. If what you're doing isn't what we can support, then I guarantee I will make the exact right introduction to whomever is the exact right place for you to be. It might be any one of our many partners, like the Gannon Small Business Development Center, or perhaps it's the University Beehive, the Northwest Pennsylvania Innovation Beehive, or it might be Paramount Pursuits with their Grow in Erie or Thrive in Erie programs, and on and on and on. There are a lot of folks that we are connected to and can introduce you to help you move your idea forward.
So you are a resource, an advisor, a consultant, but if something seems to be interesting, you can help encourage someone to move forward into a real business. You may even help with the funding.
That's exactly right. That's really well said. I'm going to say it that way.
You can have that. Well, now let's have some fun here, because it's a statewide
and all of that,
thing.
By the way,
yeah,
there's no cost for any of that.
That's the amazing thing.
Right?
People are entrepreneurs. I hear them sitting, in a coffee shop. Not so much that lately, but just on the phone or online, and they're complaining that there's no, they watch the pop television programs, and they think that's the real world. But the real world is the Ben Franklin Technology Partners, where you help everyone that comes to your front door.
We really do. Mm-hmm. We really do. And that's an important mission, because a big piece of what we do is help grow entrepreneurial ecosystems. So in order to have a great entrepreneurial company, you need more than great customers and great staff and a great idea and great execution. You actually need the community around you to support you. And so we spend a lot of effort in helping communities grow so that they can support those companies.
Well, we're very fortunate that you're, with the giant territory that you cover, we're very fortunate that you're right here. You're a stone's throw up the road, so to speak. But come to think of it,
right.
where are you located now?
Well, lately it's been my home.
Yes,
but prior to that, and coming out of the pandemic era, our offices are located in the Sam and SUNY Black Knowledge Center inside of Innovation or Knowledge Park up near the Barron campus.
Wonderful.
So that's where our official offices are located there.
Well, you're conducting classes online, mostly, sessions online.
We do a lot of Zoom and obviously email and phone calls.
Let's talk about real life scenarios. Can you think of a recent project that you'd care to give as an example relative to the services you provide?
Sure. You're essentially asking me, of all the children you have, which do you like?
Well, let's just say, let's pick a couple if you don't want to be playing favorites with the kids.
I'll start with the most recent, and we can certainly go back in history. So before I get into that, what's really interesting, Tom, is we're really fortunate in that people who have had an idea that they just can't stop thinking about, they'll come to us to talk about it. And I can't think of a more privileged position to be in when we're thinking about the future of the economy of our communities and our country, is to be in that position to help people take the next step forward. It's frankly really exciting, and we get charged up about it every day. And then the ability to help them is just absolutely the perfect place for so many of us in Ben Franklin to be.
The state's afforded you some good money to do this.
Well, not as much as you'd think. I think we ring the nickel out pretty good.
That's good.
Frankly, that's one of our challenges right now is, as you mentioned, we cover such a large geographic area. Yeah. It is difficult to get out to places where we know there's entrepreneurism going on, but we just don't have the capital and resources to service everyone. And I know that's upsetting, and I know that's concerning, and certainly we're trying to do everything we can by leveraging tools like Zoom and the others. But having more capital would allow us to have a greater economic impact, even more so than we've had to date. So some of the things that we are working on, as I mentioned, beverage manufacturing as an area that we're pursuing. One of the latest companies we've invested in is, I mentioned them earlier, in Erie, Blind Tiger Spirit-Free Cocktail, a really innovative product, a really great entrepreneur. Her name is Dr. Rebecca Stein, and Rebecca is just spectacular as an entrepreneur. one of the things that we really, really look at hard when we're investing in companies is it a single person or is it a team of people who are running the company? And Rebecca has done a great job of assembling folks to help build out Blind Tiger and move it forward. She's on shelves nationwide. Her product is a spirit-free cocktail, literally on shelves nationwide. She just was recently awarded a huge, what they call the golden ticket, for the largest beverage distributor in the country. So she's doing really great, hiring folks, and they're really moving ahead forward.
And that's right out of Erie, Pennsylvania here, right?
It's right out of Erie, Pennsylvania. On the more technology side, we've got an amazing entrepreneur in Mercer County. Her name is Kara Wasser. And Kara and her team have created what's called Ohana Link Technologies. So if you're familiar at all with the word Ohana, that means family. And so what Kara and her team have created, and there's more than a dozen employees now with the company. What they've created is a communications platform that allows you to communicate to your circle, your trusted circle of friends and family, during various life events. So for those of you that have someone who's pregnant, during the whole birth process and leading up to it, you don't want to be blasting people with text messages and 724, what's this phone number? Who is this?
Right.
You want to be able to go in and know who people are. And unlike other competitors of hers, it's completely private and completely secure. So there's products that are being used on smartphones and other devices to help improve communications. And what we've seen, especially in the pandemic area or COVID pandemic era, is how important that is to be able to communicate with your family who happen to be in the hospital during that time and you can't go in to see them. So it's a fabulous company, a really great product. Those are just two of the latest. There are others. One of the companies that we've invested in is helping folks who are at risk, either through substance abuse or perhaps in an abuse situation, actually get help proactively rather than reactively. We have a company that has produced a college and career readiness platform. So as you're going through your early high school years through graduation, it helps you identify what are the pathways for you. And I could go on and on and on. We've got a company who's about to explode. They're doing work with the military on a revolutionary new brake called Sphere brakes. And again, I could go on and on and on, but it's a thrill to be able to work with these super smart people.
How many so far this year? Round numbers.
Well, in the past year, it was about a dozen just in Northwest Pennsylvania. And across our entire footprint, it was more than 2 dozen. So actually close to 3 dozen. So, as I mentioned earlier, while the capital we have has been reduced year after year after year, we're doing the best that we can with the dollars that we do have to find those great entrepreneurs, put it to use, and really support them through mentorship and the other programs that we have. And the really interesting thing about our program is that it operates on a pay-it-forward basis. So as an example, a company that we invested in 2 years ago is now doing the necessary economic work so that we get a return. It's called a payback. We then take that money to invest in a company today, and then in 2 years, that company's money will be used to invest in a company in 2 years. So we operate on what we call an evergreen fund, meaning that money is available, and we try to continue to pay it forward. And specifically in Erie County, we're very fortunate to be partnered up with the Erie County Gaming and Revenue Authority, which is run by Perry Wood and his group.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been very helpful in providing us the necessary capital for Erie County-based company.
Talk about accelerator programs. You have some programs coming up in 2022, maybe. Yeah, this year is virtually gone. What's coming up next year in the way of encouraging different categories of business or manufacturing to succeed?
Yeah. So in January of 22, we will be kicking off the first of our quarterly Texcelerators. Now, because of Zoom and the other technologies, we can actually do programs across the entire Commonwealth. So it's very possible, frankly, it's likely, that a company in Erie is going to be in a cohort of startups with a company that's in Lancaster or State College or in Mercer. So we have the advantage of technology that we put to use to have virtual Texcelerator programs. And what a Texcelerator program is a 10-week boot camp going from I've got an idea, or maybe I've advanced my idea a little bit, but I really want to build a business, right? Having an idea is great. Executing and build a business is what we're in the business of doing. So we have a program that's every quarter. Our next one is in January. Then in June, we're going to have a industry-focused Texcelerator focused on food and beverage manufacturing. And so because of all the activity going on in the Erie region, we're going to focus on companies in our region who are looking at, hey, I'd like to start a food business. Now, that isn't a restaurant or a pizza shop or anything like that, but it is things like what Rebecca Stein has done with Blind Tiger, or there are several others who have a product and they'd like to figure out how to bottle it, quote unquote, bottle it, and get it out into a broader market. So that's what we're going to be starting in I think June of this year. And then there'll be two other, or not this year, next year. And then there'll be two other Texcelerators as well.
Hopefully we'll be rid of COVID and the phone lines by then. In the last couple of minutes, what's your budget like, or that budget floats relative to the income you generate from the companies you help start?
So unfortunately, our budget has been halved for the past decade. So as I mentioned earlier, the capital that we use has created a 4-to-1, almost 4-to-1 return over the lifespan of Ben Franklin Technology Partners. And we put that money to use to build and support these companies. So a 4-to-1 return, ask any venture investor, a 4-to-1 return is they'd be extraordinarily happy to get 4-to-1 return year after year after year after year after year. So unfortunately, our budgets have been halved. We're, of course, grateful for all of the support that the Commonwealth provides. But the truth of the matter is there are states like Mississippi and Arkansas who are providing more economic support for programs like ours at a significantly higher level. And, of course, you're seeing the result is that those states are starting to catch up. So we think we can do better from a budgetary perspective, and we certainly know exactly how we put it to use.
The effect for our community is obviously new companies, subsequently new jobs. So
That's right.
This is true economic development on a grassroots scale, let alone creating new companies. And I'm sure once you see someone do something, I get excited when I hear about something extremely innovative coming right out of Northwest Pennsylvania, and it just makes you want to sit down and motivate yourself to do something great for the community, as you are. Yeah.
Well, the bottom line, Tom, is we want our children to stay around. We would like them to that we can take the 10-minute drive and be at their homes for Thanksgiving. We all recognize that our young and talented brains are moving away. They're looking for other kinds of opportunities in other places. And that's okay as long as we can attract them back. Right. But frankly, we'd like them to come, to grow and build great businesses and do great things right here in this community. And frankly, for all of us at Ben Franklin, the most exciting day of any year is when you've begun to work with an entrepreneur. They have their company up and running. We are able to provide some capital for them to go forward. And the next time that I visit them, I see someone new sitting at a desk doing their thing that I know wasn't there before. Creating that, even just one job, means so much to that person, to the colleagues that they're working with, and the community broadly. That is a thrill every single day when we get to go back to the companies we're working with and meet new people and recognize that we've had a part in that. That's extraordinarily rewarding.
Well, we wish you another 40 good years, because the outcome at 4-1 in my mind is pretty darn good. And the Ben Franklin Technology Partners and your leadership and your staff and your crew, I know, are working hard, because as you go to the website, and let's plug that, what's the best way to find you?
Sure. Go to benfranklin.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a pull-down menu that will ask you to select which county is your business located in.
Fabulous.
You select which county, and it'll direct you right to the front page of our website. And my contact information is really easy. If you're on Twitter, send me a message at BenFrankBrian, B-R-I-A-N.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can email me at Brian Slawin, all one word, BrianSlawin, at cnp.benfranklin.org, or just go to the website and my name's on there, and you can just email me.
And that'll be the quickest and fastest way. Sometimes communicating by phone and is not as much fun as sitting in the studio, but I'm thinking another 6 months we'll manage that, and we'll have you come back and let us know how the 2022 programs that you've set up for the upcoming year, how well they are doing. We'll do a little report on that and maybe talk about some of the success stories that have come up out of 2021 into 2022. Brian Slawin, thank you. Thank you very much for being on the air today.
For 50 years, NPR has brought you perspective on the news, the big picture, crucial context, and thoughtful analysis. Public radio is also a place for perspective you might not hear anywhere else. Not only do you hear from journalists, experts, and leaders, you also hear directly from the people at the heart of the story. Listen to NPR and hear every voice.
Hey, it's Peter Sagal here to wish you a happy anniversary. Yeah, NPR is marking 50 years in the air with you. I mean, we've only been hinting about it all year. Oh, and by the way, just FYI, the 50th anniversary is traditionally the massive donation anniversary. It's old-fashioned, but still. No matter how you choose to celebrate, NPR is still here for you. Then, now, and next.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pysz, and we're celebrating our 18th year on the air here at WQLN. Barbara Chaffee is with us. Barbara, you were on the air with us several years ago. We're trying to remember exactly when, but I did appreciate the fact that you did come on. And Barbara, you're the president and CEO of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center Foundation. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much.
And also, we're very proud to have a second guest. I just want to, Matt Greene, I want to hear your voice, please.
Hey, Tom, how you doing today?
You
Thank
sound
you
like
very much for having us on.
Oh my gosh, you're the manager at the Presque State Park. And what was your former job? You had a pretty interesting job before this.
Yeah, so from my assignment before coming to Presque State Park Complex, I worked in downtown Pittsburgh at Point State Park during the $35 million kind of full park renovation that happened down there.
We were neighbors. I was up in a building walking distance to Point State Park. So, well, let me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you guys did a tremendous job. It was a fabulous project, and I'm sure the people of Pittsburgh did appreciate all the hard work that you put into it. Let me start with some basic things. Barbara, I'm going to ask you a real basic question. Can you tell us how the Tom Ridge Environmental Center Foundation started and how you got involved with it?
Sure. So the Tom Ridge Environmental Center Foundation, which was formerly the Friends of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center, started
about 2003 or 2004 in preparation for the building of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to raise money and start an endowment to help with funding for projects and initiatives for the Tom Ridge Environmental Center and Presque State Park. I was involved somewhat when I worked for Governor Ridge, when this whole dream of a visitor center was a gleam in everybody's eyes. And then, of course, continued to be involved behind the scenes. And then I came here in, I think it was January of 2018 as the president and CEO. So it's been really exciting times here.
I'm going to put Matt Greene on the line here. Matt, for folks that are listening from just about everywhere, we're on about a dozen podcast venues. Can you give us a brief verbal description of the center, please?
A brief verbal description of the center.
I told you I'd put you on the spot.
You are testing my architectural styling knowledge here.
Yeah.
I would say that the center kind of takes on a different look than the majority of our state park other resources. Traditionally we are pretty rustic in nature, brown stains and paints, yellow letterings for stuff. But the Tom Ridge Environmental Center is a much kind of bigger, better idea than just our normal run-of-the-mill places. It is very angular, I think, in description. It is very green and lush around the outsides to highlight the native species of Presque State Park. And it takes on an air of something different in state parks. And that something different is really kind of lends itself to the sustainability work that has kind of gone into the center in itself. I mean, you see lots of windows on the front of the building, and those help with that solar passive heating in the building, long angular roofs that collect stormwater, and lots of trees around that outside that kind of lend itself not just to a normal state park feel, but a full ecology, sustainability kind of feel for the building.
So people can see how wonderful this is. They can go to the DCNR website. And,
that's correct.
Scroll down to the Tom Ridge Environmental Center at Presque Isle, and they'll see a wonderful panoramic view. But that doesn't completely describe everything that goes on there. Before I get back to Barbara with a more difficult question, what's all in there? It's a museum. It's offices. I believe there's some research going on there. Am I close?
Yeah, you're very close. And this building takes on a life that's very different than majority of our other 121 state parks across the system. This building, with like most state parks, does have a visitor center and a park office where you can get the information you need, do business with the park in the park office, and learn a little bit about Presque State Park and the surrounding area. The center also is the Erie Visitor Center with Visit Erie here, staffing the downstairs location. So you can find out all about the region and those different amenities that are around when you're here to visit. It also takes on that research component, which really for us as park managers is a really great kind of tool in our toolbox to be able to deal with the tremendous natural resource that Presque State Park is. Not many state parks have a research component that's attached to it that we can make and base our management decisions off of. So having that here, whether it's harmful algal blooms, whether it's water quality, whether it's invasive species or native species, reintroductions kind of thing, we have a lot of information to base our management decisions off of with the research side of what happens in the building. And then probably one of the biggest ideas of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center was having office space beyond just state park staff, having other conservation or ecological entities and organizations in the building provide that quick chat at the water cooler, which lead to major big scale projects sometimes, or initiatives and efforts, or even outreach in collaboration with different outreach components for different agencies, with our own education staff that really kind of amplify what we could do, and it's well beyond what we could ever do as just ourselves as a state park.
Well, the state park is 3,200 acres. How big is the building relative to that?
Well, so the building is 75,000 square feet. It's a big building, a big tower where you can overlook Lake Erie. It has a large format theater. It has, like I said, a research wing where researchers from the Regional Science Consortium can come in from a bunch of different universities and state agencies and K through 12 schools. It's a big building, but it's home of a lot of big ideas. So it's a really good thing, not just for us at the state park where we see the advantages as park management, but it's a good thing for our whole region because they're tackling localized regional problems here as well.
I have to say that the value to this to Northwest Pennsylvania is that it probably, I'm sure it attracts many visitors during the year.
Oh yes, yeah. I think we are averaging somewhere between 100 to 125,000 visitors in the door. Not to mention thousands upon thousands of school kids every year that get introduced to Presque Isle in a way that you may not get if you just came down with your family or friends. You get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, about the natural resources and kind of the work that goes into maintaining those resources long term.
You have a special feature. People can take a trip up the tower, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A 75-foot tower provides a really good view of Lake Erie and provides us as park staff and our other educators within the building a great place to talk about things like watershed and pollution and those kind of things where you can visually kind of see a bunch of those components from the streams down into the head of the bay and out into the lake.
So Barbara doesn't feel neglected here. Barbara, you have a daunting task to some degree. As president and CEO of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center Foundation, it's obvious to me what your main task is. Could you go into that a little bit for us?
Sure. Well, of course, it's to raise money and build our endowment so that we can continue to do projects for Presque Isle State Park and the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. However, we also do grants for some of our partners here, our environmental partners, because the work here is really critical. Right now, though, we are raising funds, focusing on funds for a number of different things. We are really trying to raise more money and continued money to do the redesign of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center exhibits, the educational exhibits here. Mm-hmm. The educational exhibits were designed, 4 and 05 before the opening in May 2006. So as you know, the exhibits have changed as far as how people learn. You need to be more interactive. You have to have emerging technologies. Mm-hmm. The static format is not the best format in today's world and for the future. And we, together with the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources team and Presque Isle State Park Complex and some of our partners, are working with a company called IDEUM, which is one of the top emerging technology companies in the country, on phase 1, which is our redesign for the exhibits.
It seems like it just built everything a few years ago. I remember walking through the first time and just being flabbergasted by the amount of energy, time, all the organizations that resided there, the upstairs, downstairs, the big atrium. It certainly is got to be one of the top 10 places in the United States to visit. And I can say that. I'm allowed to say that. But a lot of work and energy, you say, is now going into redesigning it, right? Am I close?
Oh, correct. There's a number of things going on here as well. So, first of all, our foundation has also taken over the operation of Presque Isle Gallery and Gifts. Okay. And we think that's important because any net profits will then go in to the endowment and be designated for Department of Conservation Natural Resource projects, so for Trek and the park. So we're very excited about that. Also, for the first time ever, the Trek Foundation has sponsored the first ever National Geographic exhibit here in Erie, which is currently running, and it's National Geographic Sharks. It's on our second floor open exhibit area here, and it's very, very exciting.
That's going to draw thousands, if not more, people. How did you get involved with the National Geographic folks? Was that something you put your heads together? Did you solicit it? Did someone understand how great the trek would be to attract viewers to something like that? How did that all come about, if I could ask?
I started researching exhibit companies and what exhibits would be appropriate here, and what draws people in, because you need the exhibit prior that drew the most people to this facility was dinosaurs. So people may say, well, why sharks? Presque Isle doesn't have sharks. Lake Erie doesn't have sharks. But the educators here can do lessons around sharks and the environment and ecology, but also the fact that, as you know, Erie also markets itself as salt-free, shark-free, so we can have a little fun with that as well. Our board for the Trek Foundation made the decision then that we should move forward with this exhibit, and we hope to be able to continue doing that each year with top exhibit companies. And National Geographic has been fantastic to work with.
Can we talk about the board? First of all, let me just interject here. Presque Isle State Park, and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, 100 years, an anniversary, right?
Yeah, this year we started celebrating our 100 years anniversary for Presque Isle State Park in May, and we've kind of been celebrating all year long. We plan to celebrate up into May of next year with lots of different things, lots of programs for people, lots of great things for people to do, like Barbara and the work that the foundation has done with the National Geographic exhibit, our own exhibit that our own educators have put together with kind of a pictorial timeline of Presque Isle State Park over 100 years. And this is the time when we're really starting to kind of turn our focus away from the first 100 years and look towards the next 100 years, because we know that Presque Isle State Park is a national natural landmark and a treasure for everyone. It has a emotional, kind of visceral connection with people that have been out here, and we really want to pay close attention to how we are setting ourselves up for the next 100 years, because us in parks, we're in the long game. We're in the generations game, and that's what we really want to look towards and get people energized about, because this is everybody's park.
And now we'll go back to Barbara. You have the daunting task of how to garner a good deal of money to make this all happen in the near future and over the next 100 years. And that's what you're doing right now, right?
Yes, that's correct. And we're always looking at more creative ways, of course, to raise money, as well as major donors. As you know, the Erie Marketplace has over 400 plus nonprofits in the marketplace.
Yes, I know.
So there are some challenges there, but we continue to work with Matt Greene and their team here on finding unique ways to continue to raise money. And, of course, taking over Gallery and Gifts, the Presque Isle Gallery and Gifts was one of those first steps, and do a few other operational things here, we hope, to move forward. And we believe, too, that sponsorship for National Geographic Sharks and exhibits like that in the future also will help us.
Well, let's talk about the real value to that, if I may interject here. You mentioned a large number of students in the schools that do come to the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. It's an amazing classroom. Am I close?
Oh, you're absolutely close. One of the things the foundation has done throughout the years is funded VI Intermediate Unit 5 so that they can bring the students by buses for the experience here at Trek and at Presque Isle State Park. We've recently just purchased more audio and video equipment because they're doing virtual education classes here, and they've been filled all the time. I mean, it's been really exciting, and it's great help to teachers throughout the school systems in the 17 school districts around Erie County and Crawford County, that for them to tap into the education gifts that our educators provide here.
So close to Ohio and Western New York, I encourage them to call and see if they can get an appointment to come visit as well.
Absolutely.
It's so close. It's almost embarrassing not to wander over the border. We're so close on both sides of the fence. And not to say that Buffalo, Cleveland does not have outstanding and wonderful education facilities, but this is unique. The peninsula jutting out into Lake Erie, and at the headstone is this beautiful, beautiful educational environmental center. Barbara, can we talk about boards? I always ask chairs, talk about your board if you care to. Talk about your efforts with them and maintain. You have one of the largest boards. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have one of the largest boards that stretches far and across Pennsylvania that I can recall of any organization locally.
Well, it's interesting because our board now runs anywhere from 15 to 17 members, but we do have people from Pittsburgh who actually work at Carnegie Mellon. We have people from around the state that also help us with input. But right now, many of our members are more local. We are fortunate enough to have Dr. Scott Miller, who is from Edinburgh University, will be provost and chief academic officer for the new university, Pennsylvania Western University, as our chair. And then people like Robert Mazza and Bob Gowacki. And we just have people throughout that really make a contribution. Leif Wardy, a small business owner who really understands data.
He was just on the program. Yep, he's very good.
Oh, yes, he's great. Yeah. He's great. Well, they're all great.
They're all great,
Michelle Ridge, of course, and former First Lady, and Jessica Ridge, who is one of the younger members of the Ridge clan, Judge David Ridge and Wendy Ridge's daughter. So that we have a good mix of people from different walks of life that have been extremely committed here, but also understand not only how important Presque State Park is, but also Great Lake Erie. And I think you'll see as we move forward already in the work groups that we've participated in the redesign of the exhibits, that there also will be more attention and telling the story better about the Great Lakes and the impact of the Great Lakes on the U.S. Because of water issues, climate issues, all of the issues that come in today's world.
We keep talking about global warming, and I'm sure in all the science that you accumulated, and I'm going to ask Matt about that. Let's talk about science and research at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. There are folks that do that there, am I right?
That's correct. We have multiple different organizations that take part in research and education here at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. The Regional Science Consortium, who manages the research wing downstairs, they have over 20 different universities, K through 12 schools, state organizations as part of that consortium who do different work. We're also lucky enough to have Pennsylvania Sea Grant here in the building who does both research and outreach as part of what they do. And we cooperate with both of those organizations on a regular basis, specifically with our education staff to get the word out about what those emerging kind of issues are, how people can start addressing those issues in their own life to help the broader picture. And as Barbara said, to get people to think broader than just right here, right in this space that we live in right here, because everything we do here, like with anywhere else, affects the broader spectrum of ecology. So getting people to think outside of their own specific area while taking part in doing things within their own local kind of community and local space that really has a big effect on that.
Absolutely. I've had some folks call me from the other end of the lake, Barbara, and I said, have you folks come to see the Tom Ridge Environmental Center? And I was a little taken aback at what they were doing, which was a good thing. But then I said, do you realize how many organizations are sitting right in our backyard in a beautiful facility? Come visit, come talk to them. And to enforce, Matt, what you were saying, it's an opportunity for us to collate or organize with the rest of the shoreline. Do you folks, speaking of that, do you folks talk to the folks up in Canada by any chance?
funny you should mention that.
Yeah.
That has been one of the driving forces that Governor Tom Ridge has had in every meeting that Matt and I have had with him, and in meetings that we've had with Dr. Ralph Ford and I overnight at Penn State Barron.
Yes.
So PAC grant is working down on that pathway as well. And there's some grant applications out there to hopefully do more. But I will tell you, Matt and I probably couldn't count how many times we've heard that from Governor Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to mention, though, too, when you talked about talking to our neighbors, and one of the things here, too, that is really special that people don't always know is because we are one of the top birding places in the country.
Yes.
And
yes.
we are very fortunate to to have Presque Audubon. We have
Yes.
Erie Bird Observatory and
Yes.
Purple Martin Conservancy. So, I mean, you've got three of the leading bird organizations here that are doing tremendous amount of work. And we're one of the best places around to come for the birding seasons.
Absolutely.
And all of that,
yes,
all of that to the point of speaking with our neighbors too. All of those organizations in some way do work and are part of a larger network with Canada and beyond. As we know that birds are that natural indicator of change. Having those organizations here really help us in getting that message across to people and kind of seeing those early indications of what's happening, and then being plugged into those networks within Canada, with bird migration and even down with Purple Martin Conservation Association, all the way down to Brazil, where Purple Martin go to roost every year. It's a pretty broad swath of what kind of that connection is with other organizations.
I want people to understand that you did have an important international conservation connection, both north and south, so to speak, because this is a landing station, so to speak. I've seen some interesting birds over this last summer. I'm not an expert, but you're saying there's folks that I can come talk to or at least call that reside at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center that people can learn more about the environment and everything that you represent for Northwest Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. And as Barbara said, the peninsula, it is that kind of stopover, resting grounds, feeding grounds before and after migration across Lake Erie. It is one of those perfect locations to be able to see all the different species of migration, and having those different organizations here doing research, getting out there and doing education and outreach with bird banding stations and with the radio telemetry projects that the foundation has helped with, GPS locators on. I mean, it gives us a really good look well beyond just little Erie County, Pennsylvania, a much broader picture of how the things we do here can affect things large scale.
So, Barbara, what are the plans that the foundation may have in the next couple of years to help keep this important resource alive in Northwest Pennsylvania?
I think our key will be to raise major funding to redo the exhibits so that they are all emerging technology exhibits. So to be able to tell the story of Presque State Park and the Great Lakes, how critical that is. And then also, of course, to make this place not only, you've talked about a regional attraction, but a national attraction, because we really believe that we would be unique and above every other museum that addresses any Great Lakes issues, environmental issues. We really think that is going to be an amazing project, and it will take major investments to do so. We also have been working with DCNR. We just purchased museum quality gallery walls for the second floor. I know a number of the visitor centers at the state parks have wanted to have those, and it doesn't normally come out of the state budget. And doing that. I also want to mention, though, while we're on the air, too, and especially with the holidays coming up, but if you really want the history of the park, that probably the most complete, unbelievable book is the book by David Frew and Jerry Scripps at National Park. Pysz, which is sold only here at the shop. And portion of those funds will go to our endowment as well as to the Jefferson Educational Society, who was the publisher of this book.
Just had the honor of talking to Dr. Frew a couple of months ago on the program, and what a fan of this area he is, and what a proponent. And it's very wonderful that you would have one of his books in support of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center.
And it's the most perfect name for Presque State Park, really. Accidental Paradise. It's the perfect name.
He talked about it. Yes, he talked about it in detail. So if people want to scroll down our website and try and find that interview to supplement this one, that'd be great. In the last couple of minutes, any thoughts about the future? Any surprises? I think you covered pretty much anything. Is there anything coming up that we could know about or should know about? Events or something like that?
As well, we've obviously, been talking a lot about the 100-year anniversary of Presque State Park.
Right.
Being one of the older state parks in Pennsylvania, second oldest state park. We've kind of been thinking about this a lot, and we've been talking internally with our regional office and director's office and executive staff about what that means moving forward and what we need to do as a state agency to kind of help celebrate that. And I'm really proud that our agency has stepped up in this time of 100 years of a state park and made major capital investments moving forward so that we can help manage and maintain this state park and this great natural resource for many, many years to come. I mean, we have over $20 million worth of capital projects in some state of whether it's design, construction, or finished up. At this point, we just recently purchased the property up on 6th and Peninsula to expand the campus here at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center, to protect the viewshed into Presque State Park, and to potentially help us with stormwater management in Scott Run and protect that previously delisted area of concern at the Presque Bay.
Congratulations on that. I campaigned for that for 20 years. I couldn't believe that whole stretch from 6th Street down was an all, and not to say that there shouldn't be some retail there, but there was a big swath of land that should have belonged to you, and I'm really happy to hear that it does.
Yeah, we were really pleased to be able to not just get that piece of property that's contiguous to us, but to be able to have a real stake in what happens to Presque Bay and being part of that watershed, besides just an abutment neighbor to that, is a really great thing.
Yes.
We also have almost $5 million water line project that's going to completely revamp all water lines on the park. I saw
that. That was fascinating.
Yeah, that's going on right now, and it's supposed to be wrapped up by this spring. So that's going to set us good for at least 50 more years in the infrastructure side. Sewage project. The sewage project should be starting here probably within the month, where we will be, and this is not just a great thing for park managers because they know they can deal with the things they need to deal with from a utility standpoint, but this project is a real ecological boon for the park. As we've kind of transitioned over those 100 years from kind of pit latrines to more modern flush facilities and on-site treatment, this next phase is going to put us where we really need to go, and that is by removing all liquid solid waste off of the park for treatment somewhere else. I mean, that's going to help us beyond what we really realize is going to help us over the next 100 years. So we're really, really excited about that project. It's not one of those projects that you kind of put big charrettes up and say, oh, look at this great building and this, but it's one of those things that are going to be a cornerstone of us in conservation long-term on Presque.
Well, this is the part of the job that I hate the most. We're out of time. That's my sad announcement for the moment. So I'm going to find you folks again. I guarantee it. Barbara Chaffee, President and CEO of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center Foundation. I know people know how to find you. Matt Greene, you're easy to find. You're online. You're everywhere. You're all over the park. You're all over the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. We are grateful that you're working on the project as part of our lifestyle and as a community asset. Thank you both for being on the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.